Always learning and growing. Attracting the right people and keeping your vision in focus every day. This is the Brian Covey Show.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are in the studio here in Brentwood, Tennessee with the Lone Depot studio. Super excited about today as getting to bring on a guest, Rene Rodriguez, that I've not personally got to meet in person. So this is an event for me that's always fun. You connect with people online and then you're able to take your relationship and build that through different ways. And part of the reason we even launched this podcast was to bring on people with different vantage points, perspectives, backgrounds, things that they could share that would add value into your life and into the world. And Rene is one of those people that I actually found him through some mutual friends, which is usually how we find gurus, experts, people that are going to have an impact on our lives. And Rene was one of those that we personally got impacted by the things that are happening right now in the world. And we were actually supposed to meet up at one of his events that I'm sure we'll get into. And unfortunately, none of us are really traveling right now. So today, we're going to unpack a lot of things. I will tell you, Rene is known, he's been in the industry for over 15 years and is known as the go-to guy right now I hear about, mostly around speaking and speaking from your heart and really finding a way to communicate your message that's authentic to you in a way that you can share that and move out of what most of us have, including myself, is some fear of public speaking, fear of sharing our message and fear of being judged and all that. We're going to unpack that today and really help you become not only a better speaker, but clearer about how you can communicate. And so, Rene, we're excited to have you on here, and thank you for making time.
Hey, I'm excited to be on here too, my friend. I've heard nothing but amazing things about you, so the feeling is definitely mutual.
Man, and that's what, I've learned over the past, and thank you for saying that, is this past few weeks has been unique for all of us, I think, in that we're having to go back on our own understanding and build relationships in such a new way. That it used to be we would sit down with someone and I could read their energy or body language or get a feel. And today, yes, video is there and we're doing that today, but I found that that's changed quite a bit, and we're adapting on the fly, which exposes some of us to things that we don't know and a little bit of uncomfortability. And you deal in this world all the time, getting people uncomfortable, almost I say to get comfortable, right?
Right, absolutely. No, I think it's an interesting time. I think we're all, whether this is and I don't personally think this is going to last much longer. I think this is going to be, like Steve Harney says, a snowstorm. This is not a tornado. The snow is going to come through, shut us down for a little bit. The snow is going to melt, and we're going to go back to business as usual. But we're all going to be a lot better at social media. We're all going to be a lot better at doing video and video conferencing and all that sort of stuff. We're going to start appreciating relationships and handshakes and time that we spend together a lot more. And so, this is uncomfortable. I've had to make a complete pivot. I do 100 events a year, and they all cancel.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where we got together and said, all right, guys, I guess we're an online business for a little bit. And so, it's been fun. It's a lot of sleepless nights learning new things, and I have a lot more respect for digital marketers, that's for sure.
Yeah, not the truth. And I think what we're all realizing is we're all vulnerable to this, and no matter what industry you're in, right? It just exposed us to things that we were not doing, that we should have been doing.
It's a gift in a lot of ways, because we are being forced to look at things that maybe some weak spots that we had, and we're going to be forced to address those. And life is all about how you look at it. It really is. Does it suck? It absolutely sucks. It absolutely sucks on every level. But can I do anything about it? No, I can only do what I can control.
That's right.
And so I'm going to look at this as my chance to learn digital marketing and my chance to learn a lot of different things. And so that's not to downplay the devastating effect that's having on a lot of people, because that's for sure. But that's why we do things like this. We got to be out there, and those that aren't being as affected in certain ways, or that maybe have the resources, that need to step up and help those that don't. Yeah.
And I think that's part of what really inspired me, is to bring you on as one of those that you're inspiring me and inspiring a lot of people. And I noticed even just this week, my 4-year-old is on Zoom with his classmates at 4 years old. And they're
just wild.
Right. Think about that. I mean, at 4 years old, I'm going, we didn't have an iPhone. We didn't have the technology. And yet my 4-year-old is learning Zoom and how to connect with his classmates. And there was nothing short of moments and memories being created by them and his teacher, who actually organized that. And they were able to, in a way, interact. Even as 4-year-olds, there was connections and relationships being built and strengthened. Crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely, when you think about it, it's like, I don't think we even had TVs until we were like, at least I was until like 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be different. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's had a huge technology shift there. So I know you mentioned your business has changed a lot. And I think that's something for all of us. We're all trying to pivot and shift. And you mentioned a couple things with the digital marketing and how you've moved. I mean, think about your whole business, as you said, 100 events a year. And you really thrived with that face-to-face. That was how you built there. And so as you're looking at how you've shifted, I think the listeners probably would learn and have some insights into when that happened to you originally. I always want to go back to that moment. Like, how did you feel? And then kind of walk us through that process of how did you move from feelings to you took action?
Yeah. Well, so these things, I think they're people say they're sudden, but they're really not. You get a little piece of information, you're going, and then you get a little bit more, and then you get a little bit more, and you get a little bit more, and then you start entering the phase of predicting, right?
Yeah.
Scenario planning. Well, if this happens, then that. If this, then that, and if this, then that, then that. On the 8th, I put out a post saying that, I'm going to continue traveling because we weren't doing social distancing at that point. And just the way I look at things in my background in behavioral neuroscience, I look at things from a very rational perspective. And I also study irrationality, and I looked at the irrationality behind all of these epidemics and all of the global response that we've had. And I'm not talking about, the people and the professionals, their responses. I'm talking about people buying toilet paper and, just the crazy things that they're doing. I refuse to be part of that. And so I said, I will keep traveling as long as my clients will have me. And they all stopped having me. So I had to stop traveling. And then, of course, the data comes out that we really need to curve and start flattening out the curve and really put a stop to this. And so then, of course, I'm a team player. We got to do that from a smart perspective, not from a, crazy perspective.
Right.
But when you see the events starting to cancel, then you start saying, okay, for me, it's really simple. You got to surrender to what you can control. And then within that, one more level, what I can control that actually matters. There's a lot of things that I can control that don't matter. I can control whether I pick up this phone, and I can control in watching social media. But is it mattering at the moment? Well, kind of is, but how much? And so there's a balance there. So what I can control, and then what I can control that actually matters. And then that definition is defined about my business model. And in mortgages, it's the video I just put out today on PAPCAR, prospecting, appointment setting, presentation, closing, aftercare, and getting referrals. Those are the things that matter as a loan officer and a real estate agent.
That's right.
But for me, what are the things that matter? Well, I've got to get content out. And at first I thought it was going to be, okay, I got to start selling online courses. I didn't feel good about that, to be honest. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go from not doing that to all of a sudden asking for money. And to be honest, the information, everybody kind of needs it right now. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided I'm just going to give it away for free. And there's going to be a select few people that are going to want to work with me privately, and I'll work with them.
Yeah.
But up until then, I just need to get this information out to as many people as possible.
And I noticed that. And that was and to your point, it wasn't necessarily a quick shift because you're talking about the 8th and then through when you started releasing, this Lighthouse series, and I've seen, the Courage Scale video, which I'd love to unpack some of those, is you started getting content out, but you'd already built an audience. And I think one thing people probably are going to look back on that we were talking about a year ago pretty heavily in our industry and across was you need to build your network and build your group and your tribe, we call it sometimes, because at some point you're going to have a message to share, but it could be the best message in the world if there's nobody on the other end to receive it or to get there. And so, right? Yeah.
Well, I was, I do a lot with different groups, and I've been doing this a long time. So I did have a network. I wasn't big in doing a lot of videos. And some people would say that I am, but I really wasn't. Yeah. I had a lot of videos that I did that people got, while I was speaking, but I never did speak to the camera. It was always me on a stage of some sort. And so I was not comfortable speaking to a camera in that sense because it just didn't feel real. And so I had to go through a pretty big shift. I mean, it was literally one day to the next. We recorded 4 videos, and those are the videos that you saw. But I think the sooner we surrender to what's going on and the changes that need to happen, the sooner the change happens. Because I tell people, change doesn't take a long time. It's our resistance to the change that takes a long time.
So I love that. And I want to just hold there for a second, because the resistance to the change is what I personally have found myself fighting through during this, right? Like there's things I'm going, well, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be, to be this way. And so with your background, I mean, I would love, like, how do people deal with that? Like, even myself, how do you kind of work through that resistance and almost, I think about the grieving factors and the things that we're fighting it. How do we then just rechannel that energy to take action?
Well, that's I'll point you to video number 2 in the Lighthouse series on what I call the neuroscience of corona behavior, where I outline the actual brain model on why we resist new information, why we resist innovation, why we resist behavior change, why we resist making more phone calls, doing cold calls, being better on presentation, why we resist losing weight, meaning changing our diet. It's all the same process, right? And so when we understand why we resist, it comes down to the battle between two systems that we have in our brain, system 1 and system 2. So think for a minute that you have two systems. You have this thing called system 1 that's really in charge of your autonomic functions, your breathing, your heart rate, your digestion, but it also takes very little information and makes broad judgments to it to keep you alive, right? If you see somebody that looks a little shady walking down the alley, that's all the information you need to say, maybe I shouldn't walk down that alley, right? It's not, is that fair? No. Is it judgmental? Yes. But it's for survival at that point. It's also the part of the brain that says, you know what, I see that Snickers bar or whatever the vice you have that says, hey, you should have that. And it thinks short term. It doesn't think long term. A lot of times that system 1 is wrong in its assumptions. And I'll give you an example. I'll just give you a quick question, just blurt out the answer. How many of each animal did Moses bring on the ark? You remember?
I'd say 2.
It was 2, right? That's what everybody says. So that's your system 1 answering. And it feels pretty correct, doesn't it?
It felt good.
Felt good, right? It's completely wrong. It's severely wrong because the answer is 0. It was Moses, not Noah. Actually, it was Noah, not Moses, right?
Yes.
I'd asked you about this. And so that's it's so predictable that our system 1 does that we can do what's called the Moses illusion. And so the reason that worked is because that your system 1 works in context. It says Moses, Noah, contextually close enough, 2 bearded men a long time ago in the Bible, even though they were thousands or hundreds of years apart, our brain made a quick decision. And then not only did it make a decision, it digs in on that decision.
Yeah, we committed to it.
Yeah. This system 1 is if you want to see system 1s at play, you look at what's happening in what's happening in the political environment right now. System 1 behavior is not real smart. That's the people that went and bought toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right? That's just real smart behavior. And it's short term. It takes little information. It starts doing that. I am posting every single day to people saying, would you please take this down? Somebody just posted a chaos video of people running through a mall, a store buying, literally just tearing things apart. Oh my God, this is happening. That was a video from 2007 in Mexico.
Wow.
And I just said, take that off. I mean, if you don't want to contribute, take it off. In 20 minutes earlier, they were posting about how crazy people were being. Well, you're contributing to the craziness.
100%.
And so that comes down to really that system 1 is an impulse to want to act, to do something, in battling our system 2. The system 2 is the more human side of who we are. It's slower to act. It's the one that says, what's 12 times 487? Well, I don't know either, but we could figure it out. We could pull out a calculator, right? We could, carry the 1. We're the only species that could do that. So that system 1, system 2 is the battle that we have right now. And when we see the news, breaking news, it triggers our system 1 response, and we start acting in that system 1 kind of way. No different than if you were going to war and somebody started shooting you at you, system 1 would respond.
Yeah.
Navy SEALs, they live in a system 1 world, but learn how to respond in a system 2 format. And so as system 1's going crazy, they're taking deep breaths and doing what's called box breathing. 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold 4 seconds, so they can respond slowly, methodically, and accurately in that. No different than a professional athlete. When someone else is freaking out, that pro just sees the open field, sees the stitching on the ball, and can hit it because they're relaxed. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, and I feel that, and I'm going to have to use that one on my kids with the Noah and the Moses, and we're going to test it out to make sure, because I bet even, they probably need to be a little older to have it predetermined in, but I think that's what we're seeing right now is there's almost this, it's a programmed response, and I've noticed pulling away from the news lately has helped, and like to your point, just staying out of what I feel like most people, when I turn on the news today, I don't know if you feel this, I mean, honestly, René, I'll turn on the news, and a few minutes in, I'm like, oh man, like this is bad. The world is having big problems. I need to go take this action. There's crisis that's just been created.
what am I missing? Am I going to be left behind? God, am I being stupid? Am I being naive? And then, we just heard that, Minnesota at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock is going to have the governor talk to us, and probably means, I don't know, shutdown. Maybe we're going to be locked in. My first thought was, do we have everything?
Right.
But now there's a difference between panic and preparedness, right?
Yeah.
Do I have eggs? Because I want my eggs in the morning. It's
right.
that versus, do we have other people? We better go run and buy everything. There's a difference.
Yeah, it switches. And so, in the world that a lot of us live in, there's a lot of leaders that follow you, and I know a lot of the audience and some of my friends are in leadership roles, and you've been speaking to this quite a bit lately, is leaders need to step up and lead strong and really instigate and get into this game, right, and not sit on the sideline. So I'd love for you to just kind of share that and unpack, like, what would you advise? What can leaders do tactically today, and what would a great leader look like today as they're navigating these waters?
Here's the bottom line. In every organization I've worked with, when it comes to leadership development, the first thing is self-awareness. So leaders need to be self-aware in the fact and the realization that at the end of this, they're going to be judged. If you're a leader, you're going to be judged at the end of this.
Yep.
How did you act? How did you respond? Did you listen to your people? Did you panic? Were you an alarmist? Were you a conspiracy theorist? What were you and how were you on this? Emerson has a great quote that says, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals it.
Yes.
Adverse moments reveal the character of who we are, reveal the leadership of who is and who isn't. I've watched so many leaders run and hide under a rock. Well, I've watched leaders who unexpected come out of nowhere and shine.
Yeah.
And they weren't even leaders by title.
Yeah.
And so this is the realities. You're all going to be judged. We all are going to be judged. Parents, you're going to be judged by your kids. You're teaching your kids how to respond in moments like this. And so, like for me, let's start with parents. What I do with my kids is say, hey guys, we get a chance to observe a big social experiment right now. They go, what do you mean? I said, well, you've heard about all sorts of things. Remember Y2K? I said, we're in one right now.
Yep.
We're getting a chance to watch what people do. The sad part is that some people are going to die through this, but guess what? People die every single day.
Yep.
We're just not paying attention to it. People are dying in Africa. People are dying overseas. People are dying from the flu. People are dying from mosquito bites. People are dying from stubbing their toe in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. We're just not paying attention to it. People are going to die from this. It is serious, so we're going to follow and we're going to be smart. We're not going to be irrational. And so when you give them that perspective, and you notice how I say it with a smile, that's how you say it to your kids.
Yes.
And when you're talking to your company, guys, we're about to go through something, and we're going to go through it together. Okay? And you give that perspective. You own the frame over what's happening there, instead of letting somebody else or the media own it. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're not owning the frame, meaning the description of what's happening, don't worry. The media will be happy to own the frame for you.
100%.
So if you're not doing it, someone else is going to do it for you. And so from a leader perspective, understand you're going to be judged, you're going to be watched. So who do you want to be? Act accordingly.
I love that. And we were talking about, it's interesting you mentioned the frame, because we were talking about that on our leadership call this morning, is really we own the message in our frame. And our team, we talk about being a championship team. We talk about choosing actions over feelings, and went back to what it's the language we use. And guys, we program some of this language in for times like this, right? And this is what we fall back on, and this is what's going to pull us through and really get us focused. And I love one of the Stephen Covey quotes is, keep the main thing, right? Like, let's not worry about all this other stuff.
Well, I think that goes back to even my third video, because the first video I did was on the courage scale, which was a mindset and in a way to say, okay, where am I emotionally right now? Because this is an emotional roller coaster for people, and to give people some structure around emotionally. Am I above this line, which is on sort of giving side of life, and am I below this line where I'm taking people's energy? There are people that give energy and people that take it.
Yes. Very
few people are in between. And so I give that model. Then I said, let's dive in and educate ourselves of what's happening physiologically and biologically. And now today's video was about, here are 6 money-making activities. So let's look at what's going on. Let's be leaders. Let's educate ourselves. And now let's take action, because loan officers need to double down on their activities. Loan officers need to double down on phone calls and communication and talking to realtors and doing all that stuff. Yeah. We've got to get out there, because I'm in the process. I'm down about 25 pounds, right? And one of my best friends, every time I tell him about progress, all he would say is, that's great, René, but June 1st won't lie to me.
Oh.
And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, either you're going to show up fat on June 1st or you're not, man. So, hey, that's great. I'm like, damn, man. That's
that's cold truth.
So true. It's the truth, man. At the end of this, is not going to lie to you. Either you made your phone calls and you communicated with people, or you didn't.
Yes.
What does Jim Rohn say? Either plant in the spring or beg in the fall.
Yeah.
You got a choice.
Man, I love that. And that's where, I'm observing, and I'm one of those leaders that, as I've tried to mature in my own personal growth, is one of those of how do we take some of that emotional intelligence and observe what's happening there, and then try to move our team in the direction we need them to go. And I loved your videos, because when you start with that courage scale, I'd love for you to talk a little about that, because that was something for me, I think even as a leader, trying to gain the courage in a way of finding my own voice, but being strong enough to say, you know what, this is what we believe, this is what I believe, and I'm going to stand, I'm going to plant the rock there. And so not everybody probably knows the courage scale. And so I'd love, if you don't mind, yeah, man, let's talk about that for a second, unpack that for the group.
I'll put a link in there. I'll give you a link to it. But basically, the courage scale is, you probably can't even see it all that well, but you see that there's this line in the middle,
yes.
And on the top it says the giving side, and the bottom it says the taking side.
Yep.
And on the taking side, it was a bit developed by this guy by the name of Dr. David Hawkins. And long story short, he basically created a scale that talks about emotions as they go all the way up. And at 0 starts at death, and it works its way up to shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, anger, all things that are falling below the line. And so if we ask ourselves, think of somebody that lives a majority of life below the line, and there's fear, shame, anger, guilt, all that stuff, we know that those people take our energy just like this. You can be having a great day, that person calls you on the phone, and you see their name, you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Immediately you fall right below that line. And then there's this line in the middle right here which says courage, that line of 200. Courage is what we say is the dividing line between what we call the giving side of life and the taking side of life. Giving being openness, willingness, reason, joy, love, peace, enlightenment, all those things that are there. But forget all the words. There are either people that give you energy or people that take it away.
Yeah.
And when you see that person, and Brian, when you think of somebody that lives above the line, can you think of them?
Yeah.
And do they give you energy or do they take it away?
Oh, they give.
They give it to you, right? So you can be having a great day, a horrible day, you see them, and all of a sudden you're great. Can you think of somebody who lives below the line in fear, apathy, guilt, shame, anger?
Yeah.
Do they give you energy or do they take it away?
Yeah, they suck it out of you.
Suck it out of you, right? And so I tell leaders, it's like either we're living above this line or below this line, and wherever we are, number one, is a choice, but number two, it's contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Faster than a virus. It is contagious like this. And so are your posts above the line? Are the way you do things, is it above the line? Is it below the line? Ask yourself that before you put things out into the marketplace and before you enter. And sometimes below the line could be just our body language, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you seen people on online meetings and they don't pay attention to things? They're like, hey man, it's great to see you. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah.
And influence in today's environment is online, because you got to manage posture here, right? We got to take up the camera, we got to take up the screen and be and engaged. I was running a sales meeting and I had everybody just look at the grid of all the people in body language. I said, let's get in the screen. Let's show that we're excited. If we're going to do this, this is influenced now.
Yes.
Using our hands and being engaged, having, props and showing things and using the chat, all that stuff. We have to be able to influence that way.
Yeah. And I think it's probably things that we haven't learned. And I know that's what you teach, is a lot of things people aren't even aware of. And as you were saying that, I thought back to this morning, René, we had all of our team was on a video call, right? So 25 of us or so with our organization. And I think 6 or so weren't on video, and they all had reasons why they were on video. Some valid, some not so valid. But the expectation before the call was everybody's going to be on video. Here's why, here's what we're doing. And then to your point, I could look at each screen and I would be paying attention. What's their posture? What do they look like? Are they over here doing email? And I don't think, and I would love for you to share, do you think people are aware of that more now that they're on video? Or because I don't think they're aware at all.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not even aware, even standing. I mean, I make a living just showing people just body language pieces on just standing, because we're communicating so many things. And I never made the connection to, I did unconsciously, but I never made the connection of saying, I even wrote it down. I'm going to have to do a video on digital body language. It's like, who ever thought about digital body language, right? Yeah. But we're communicating constantly, and leaders, I think, like what I told you last year, we have to make protocol. One is no multitasking while we're online, right? It's just as offensive as it is in person. And so here we got to be engaged. If your camera is over here and you're going to be looking if your camera's here, but your stuff is over here, and you're like, no, I'm talking. You guys can see me. This is still very offensive. Hey, Brian, how's it going? We have to be here, right? Well, I did a Zoom call. I literally probably do 3 or 4 of these a day now.
Yeah.
Where his camera was actually over on this side, and so for him, actually the video was over here, but his camera was there. So he's looking this way, and it looked like he was cross-eyed, but he had to force himself to turn, even though this was uncomfortable. Yeah. He had to have the discipline to do it because he knew what was being communicated. So all those things matter.
Wow. I think
more than ever.
That's going to be a big one, because I do think people are trying to, at least I'm saying, people are trying to engage and start to do these online meetings. And you're right. It's one that there are no ground rules that people have set. And so I think it could be huge for people to figure out there. So
absolutely.
I'm listening to a podcast the other day, and I thought of you because the person on there was talking about this old myth, maybe it's not a myth, that we only use 10% of our brain. And they started going through this, and we heard that as kids growing up, and I don't really know if that's true. So I thought, well, I'm going to ask the expert and see, because it's kind of hard to believe the 10% of the brain. So myth, fact, like what's that all about?
100% myth. We use our brain. Are we using it efficiently is the question. What parts are we using at what times and at what stress level? And so it's the concept, though, is I think what they're trying to say. I don't want to dismiss what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think what they're trying to say is we're capable of more. Yeah. And that is 100% true. We are capable of so much more. And you get into any elite training, whether it be Navy SEALs, the NFL, Combine, you get into the professional athletes, ultimate fighters, the best speakers in the world, the best leaders. It's not about know-how at that point. They know how to do things. The fastest runners, they know how to run fast.
That's right.
The question is, will their biology work? Will their physiology work? So they get into biofeedback. How am I managing stress under the time of performance? That's what determines if we're using the right parts of our brain at the right time. Can we manage that stress?
Yeah, and I think that's testing a lot of people right now. We're in the second week, right? We're at home, and the new world looks like we've got homeschool. That my wife and I have joked for years. Man, what would it be like to homeschool our kids? Well, guess what? We're finding out right now and diving into that and the stress. We even sat down last night and we were talking through, hey, let's put some ground rules around this. If I'm going to be working from home, we're going to have lunch at this time. We're going to have dinner at this time. And hey, that's what we said is I really believe, and I'd love for you to speak on this. I really believe I'll share in this morning is we're going to look back on this time, and it's going to be a time of significant growth for those that leaned in. And I really believe it's going to be a time that people that took initiative, the family unit gets closer and together. And we're going to look back and wish for this time that is slowed down in the blessings of we've got more choice than we've ever had. While many feel like they've been restricted, I think choice has been given back.
Well, it's all, we talk about it being quarantined. We talk about being stuck in the house. You talk to people that really have been quarantined, people that have been stuck in the house that can't leave the house because of a war or something else. We still have it pretty easy in that sense. And I'm not downplaying or dismissing people that have lost their jobs and their income, because this is a scary time.
Exactly. Right.
But like all of us, it does require us to be creative. It requires us to do something, and you're going to have to dig down deep and say, are you going to go down fighting, or are you going to figure something out? Yeah. And so that's the message I want to give to. Not everybody's had access to that kind of information, that kind of training to be able to see things that way. And so I think it falls on us to be able to start opening up and giving people access to new ways of thinking, new ways of behaving, and new opportunities, new creative thoughts, energy, all that stuff, belief. We have to be able to start giving people access to that information if they haven't had it before.
Yes, and you're leading the way with that. And then I found myself, even as a leader, saying, okay, I need to pivot away from sharing so much of the industry information. While it's important what's happening in the market and where rates are going and all these things that we watch for mortgage and finance, we've really shifted into mentally and physically being strong. Because what's going to happen after this is if we don't get our health right and take care of ourselves now, we've seen how many people are getting sick, and it's real. And then you've got people mentally that my father is actually a psychologist. I think I was sharing that with you before. And so that mental health thing for me is always near to my heart of how many people are going through that. And so I said, one of our commitments is going to be we need to lean in on helping our team be the most mentally and physically strong in good times and bad times. And as a leader, it's like very obvious. I need to pivot and shift. Stop talking about this other stuff. Just focus on.
Good for you, man.
And it was an epiphany moment that I'm still figuring out how to communicate that. And, we did little things like creating a closed Facebook group for our team, and like this morning we had an idea of, hey, Beachbody's offering free 2 months. You can put it on your phone or at home. If you have no equipment or anything, you can still work out at home, right? And then sharing messages like you're sharing and other people that are giving us, what can we learn about ourselves and our mindset during this? And where do we go?
Good for you, man.
Don't do that. That's what's going to matter after this.
I love that. I love you're so dead on, man. And it comes by leading by example and saying that, you know what, as a leader, I don't know exactly yet, but I'm out here talking. That's honest.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're all figuring this out. There isn't a playbook or a manual on these things, And so, excuse me, the piece on getting out there and sharing, I think it's critical that we get out there and just start having the conversation. I had one person last night text me midnight. I need to start doing this. VP, big production. I need to start doing video. What do you think people would want to listen to? I said, wrong question. Well, I don't know what to talk about. I said, well, what's heavy on your heart right now?
Mm-hmm.
What's heavy for you? And she listed out these things. And I said, great. What skills do you have that can lend something to that?
Yeah.
And motivation. I said, those aren't skills. What skills? Well, I'm really good with understanding personal finance and things like that, and managing a small business. I'm like, awesome.
Boom.
There's a bunch of people that need that right now. Just start there. And if 5 people show up, if one person show up, then that's the only person you're supposed to help right now.
Yeah.
Well, what's the audience? Don't worry about big audience. Just speak to your lane, the thing that you're good at. Speak from the heart. Speak boldly and get it out there and start helping. That's what we need to do.
Man, I love how you framed that too, because I think a lot of times, I even find myself falling in that trap of like, we want to almost be someone else, or we think we've got to be this other person. And it's like, no, God's already put in the message, and your gifts and your skills, they're there. They're how you're wired. I believe that. And so sharing it, and I would love your input on this, is because as a leader, one area I'm trying to kind of lean on one of the reasons why I'd connected with you originally was how to get more bold. You mentioned about that, is sharing your message and being bold. And I've heard people use the term polarizing at times, is your message has got to be polarizing. So you hear all this stuff, and as a leader, you're like, okay, it sounds good. I don't know what that means. So what advice would you give somebody trying to lean in on their message?
Well, polarizing definitely gets ears and attention. You could be uniting. You could be a bridge builder. You could be somebody that is a lighthouse, a beacon of hope of how to think.
Yeah.
And, definitely polarizing and being provocative is going to get you attention. That also can contribute to the mass hysteria. And so I think that for me, you got to choose your lane. For me, I'm a connector. Yep. And if I want to be somebody that shines a light in a direction of rationality, shines a light in a place of maybe generosity and a bigger picture of what's going on, longer term. Learning, those are things that really mean something to me. Selling, I think, is going to be a critical piece right now.
Yes.
The leadership, those are things that I want to really press hard on. And here's the thing: it has to go beyond rhetoric right now.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick has a great quote. He said, "Our ability to talk about a subject matter can create the consoling illusion that we've mastered it." We can talk about leadership all day long, but are you leading?
Yeah.
We can talk about communicating, but how are you communicating?
Yep.
We can talk about the importance of not contributing to mass hysteria while you contribute to mass hysteria. So now is the time. If you believe that you have gifts and you say, well, I believe in gifts that God gave me, but you're sitting on them, now is the time to act on what you believe.
Man, I love that. That's like the punchline, I think, of what's happening right now, is that is going to differentiate the people above the line and below the line. And
yeah.
And we're watching that. And something I was thinking of as you said that was yesterday, I was having a coaching call and I'm going through, and one of the things that stood out to me was I wrote down this term, better together and stronger together. And I feel like not only in our industry, but now it's across the country and even maybe the world, is we've got this division, right? And you got, to your point, there's not a lot of united messages that are clear. and that are truly trying to bridge those. And I feel like our industry needs that now, but people need it. Because I'm finding right now, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? I mean,
yeah. No, it really doesn't. And it all comes down to what your values are. It really does. And I'm not trying to change people's values. I want people to act from them.
Yeah.
I have a fundamental belief that at the core, beyond political party, beyond color of skin, race, gender, language, that at the end of the day, most of us share a pretty cool common set of values.
Yes.
Most human beings are pretty amazing. It's the stress that makes us act stupid. It's the division through labels and political party and emotional connections and self-righteous behavior that really divides us. And if we can just find a way to get out of that, most people are pretty awesome.
Man, I love that. And it's going to kind of take us to the wrap up, because we could talk forever. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, but I want to be respectful of the listeners and their time. And I definitely want to have you back on. I think this message is one that we need to get out there. And so I appreciate you taking time, because I really do believe right now you're a connector. That's an area that I've tried to lean in and be a connector in relationships that we've built over 20 plus years with people, that now is the time for us to step up and really lead. And once we can connect a little bit of our story with someone else's story and help them, man, that's what we're here to do. And so thank you for sharing these. And I'm going to share the resources along with this, guys. So that way, there's a lot of things René wasn't able to unpack all the way, but that will also give you an opportunity, and a little bit of a challenge from me to you is that, guys, if you're listening to this, you need to go back and watch these videos. We'll post them in there. And I will tell you, it is definitely one that is on the top of my list that we're sharing with our team, and I am sharing and pushing out. Go spend time, and I promise you this, that it will help you create that framework and put you in a better state of mind, that now you're able and you're equipped to take action and be somebody on above the line in the courage scale.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate it. I love what you're doing, man. Keep leading, keep pushing, and do it boldly without apology.
Thank you, sir. And hey, I cannot wait till the day we meet in person, and I am looking forward to that. And thank you for today. This has been not only a gift. I learned and took away a lot of things, but I know our listeners are going to take away things, and just appreciate what you're doing. Keep inspiring. Just want to affirm you that you are using your gifts, and you've been uniquely gifted in this area, that I really believe we're gonna see you make a large impact on thousands of people. So thank you for taking time out with us today.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate the opportunity. We'll talk soon, man.
Cool. Thanks, René.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
guys. That concludes another episode with the Brian Covey Show. Thank you for taking time with us. We're going to give you the links to René's information on social, so you've got all of that, and we will make sure that you get connected up with him. He's definitely somebody you want to connect up with and follow along. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.
Subscribe, rate, and review The Brian Covey Show today. Go to briancovey.com.